So, Jiri, Prochazka and Aleksandar Rakic have verbally agreed to fight each other. Gilbert Burns vs Della Maddalena is in the works for March UFC 299. Josh Emmett's fighting Bryce Mitchell on short notice. Dan Ige is fighting Lerone Murphy. And Mokaev is fighting Alex Perez in Saudi Arabia. So we've got a lot of big fights, a lot of exciting matchups to talk about in today's UFC news video. So, we're going to start off with the first piece of news, or the first fight kind of announcement or fight rumour, you could say, is that Jan Blachowicz is out of his fight at UFC 297 against Aleksandar Rakic, and Rakic has called for Jiri Prochazka to step in. Jiri has accepted, but he said he won't be ready till February or March. Rakic has said, let's do it in February in Anaheim, UFC 298, on the same card as Volkanovski vs Topuria. Jiri hasn't responded, but he said he'd be in. He said he's ready to go in February or March. So, that's a fight that we could end up getting if the UFC decides to not try and keep it on that card and they want to just settle for a better fight on a different card. We could very well be seeing Jiri Prochazka versus Aleksandar Rakic sometime in maybe February or March, which would be a really exciting fight. Rakic obviously is coming back after a long layoff after that first loss to Blachowicz, which he then was going to try and avenge here, but Blachowicz pulled out with a shoulder injury. Jiri Prochazka obviously not even a month removed from that TKO loss to Alex Perez, but by the time it would be February, that'd be 3 months? December, January, February, yeah, that'd be about 3 months if he got back in there at UFC 298, 3 months. It wasn't a bad KO loss, he didn't get dropped badly or anything like that. He didn't get put out, so I wouldn't mind seeing it. But this is a fight where if Rakic comes back at his best and he comes back at his full potential, I could see this going badly for Jiri Prochazka, especially with that short turnaround. He might not take a few of those shots as well, but Rakic is a great leg kicker. It's one of his best weapons. We all know that was one of the biggest problems for Jiri in that fight with Alex Perez. So I could see his legs getting chewed up badly. I could also see Aleksandar Rakic shooting a lot of takedowns on him as well and just kind of trying to muscle him around. Obviously, we know Jiri's got some solid grappling, but he was taken down quite a bit by Glover. Not saying that Rakic is the same level of grappler, but he's got a very strong wrestling base and he's a very physically strong, big guy for the light heavyweight division. So, as much as I'd love to see that fight, and I definitely think Jiri definitely has a chance against anyone with the striking, I think if his legs don't get chewed up too badly, he could outstrike Rakic and maybe catch him on the feet and KO him, because Rakic was getting caught by some big shots against Jan Blachowicz. So, it would be a really interesting fight. I wouldn't know who to pick. I would probably lean towards Rakic, though. Using the leg kicks, using the grappling as well, would be two big weapons for him in a potential matchup with Jiri Prochazka. But super disappointing that obviously the Blachowicz rematch is falling out, but that fight just didn't seem to have a heap of excitement behind it. It had a bit of intrigue because obviously Rakic coming back, but he hasn't fought anyone since, so it's like 2 back-to-back fights with Jan Blachowicz. It was a bit iffy, but now a potential fight with Jiri would be interesting. Maybe if Roundtree wins this weekend, he fights Rakic if they do want to keep him on that January card, because that card's not super strong. What else do we have? We got Dricus Shawn, we got the women's title fight, we got Allen vs Evloev, Berriot vs Curtis, Malott vs Magny, and Jourdain versus who's Jourdain fighting? Sean Woodson. So with that fight off the card completely, it would definitely take a bit of a hit. But if they kept him on there, maybe we see like a Krylov, maybe we see a Khalil Roundtree turning around after a win over Anthony Smith potentially. But it'll be interesting to see who ends up taking the fight. And if it was Jiri, that'd be a great fight too, especially as a pay-per-view, because Jiri's a pretty big name now. So if they got that on a UFC 298 pay-per-view, that'd definitely be a suitable co-main or feature fight on that card. But the next fight we have to talk about is Della Maddalena versus Gilbert Burns is in the works for UFC 299. And multiple sources have said that date is not confirmed. It could end up being in February on that Volkanovski versus Topuria card. But regardless, wherever that ends up being, whenever it ends up being, that's a great fight. Super intriguing. I think that's number 5 versus number 9, I believe, or number. Let me check the rankings real quick. Where's Della Maddalena ranked? UFC rankings. I'm pretty sure Gilbert Burns is number 5. And I think Della may be number 10 or something. I don't know. I'm just finding the rankings here. Sorry, I should have prepared this earlier. But it's a great fight. It's a worrying one for both guys, honestly. Let me 1 second. I'll check the rankings. It is number 4 versus 11. So that's a great step up for Jack Della Maddalena in terms of if he were to win, he's now in the top 5, probably one fight away from a title shot. So it'll be great for him if he won that. I definitely see him beating Gilbert Burns on the feet, but the grappling is something that concerns me in this matchup because Gilbert Burns, elite grappler, IBJJF, we know the jiu-jitsu and grappling credentials that he has. He's out-grappled multiple big name guys in the sport. And Jack Della Maddalena, last time he really fought a grappler was Basil Hafez on short notice, and he almost lost that fight. He obviously was piecing him up on the feet, but he was pulling guillotines and ending up getting held down for long periods of time. So if Jack Della Maddalena comes into this and isn't fully on point with his grappling defense, I could see him getting ragdolled by Gilbert Burns in the grappling, because even with Ramazan Ameev, we saw him get taken down as well. So we're not sure how good Jack Della Maddalena's grappling is. Obviously, boxing-wise, he cleans Burns up. He'll piece Gilbert up on the feet if they have a boxing match. But I could see this going bad for him in the grappling, because I don't know, Burns is a strong grappler, but also coming off that, similar to Rakic, coming off that, this is less of a layoff, obviously, but fought in May, so it's going to be, 10 months, maybe, if he comes back in March, that'll be 10 months. Not sure how he would be looking, especially he is getting older in his career. I think he's 37. It was a shoulder injury too, so a whole shoulder trap, neck injury. So I wouldn't expect his striking to be completely fluid and as good as it was. He might not be throwing with the same intensity or be able to throw as much, but I could definitely see him taking Jack down and just holding him there, similar to what he did against Stephen Thompson. That could be the approach he would take to this fight. But it'd be an incredible matchup on a pay-per-view, definitely. I'd love to see this on a pay-per-view. The Volk card would be great, 2 Australians on that card. But if they put it in Miami, that works too. I'm not fussed. Obviously, if Burns wants to have another month to prepare, that's fine by me coming off a long layoff. I like both guys, man, so it's going to be tough to, I'm conflicted, and I would probably want Jack to win just because he is Aussie, because he is the undefeated in the UFC prospect. He is that guy that, is coming up the rankings and looks more promising in terms of potentially fighting for a belt in the future. Burns does seem to be past that point in his career, but I like Gilbert Burns, man. He's a cool guy. So if he does lose, I wouldn't want him to lose too badly. Maybe just close decision or something like that. But if Della were to win that fight, get ranked number 4 or 5, because I imagine Burns is going to slip down this weekend if Shavkat beats Stephen Thompson. I think Shavkat would go above Gilbert Burns. But regardless, he might end up number 4 or number 5, but if Della beats him, big jump up, and then he could find himself probably 1 win away from a title shot, which would be incredible stuff for him. So, great fight. Early lean Burns with the grappling, but definitely could see Della winning. I'll make my official prediction if that fight ends up happening officially. Next fight, Bryce Mitchell is stepping in on short notice to fight Josh Emmett next weekend at UFC 296. Not going to go into super detail about this fight, because obviously I'll be doing my full card prediction video next week for the card. But it's a great fight, and it's a super intriguing one at that. Super intriguing fight, and I'm leaning towards Josh Emmett as of right now. Not going to give a full card, a full fight breakdown, but I could see Josh Emmett just catching him on the feet with a big shot. Obviously, not confirmed. I'm going to watch a bit more tape. I'm going to watch a bit more Josh Emmett when he ends up fighting wrestlers, because he was taken down a couple times by Ilia Topuria, but we know by how Ilia went against Bryce Mitchell that that grappling, he's taken Bryce Mitchell down and stuff too. So definitely I could see Bryce Mitchell just taking down Josh Emmett, but Emmett's just such a big, physically strong guy, especially because Bryce coming in on short notice probably won't be as prepared. He didn't look all that good against Dan Ige in his last fight. I wasn't super impressed by that performance, to quote GSP. I'm not impressed by your performance, but I could very well see Josh Emmett just being too strong for him and just kind of shucking him off and just pushing him off and then just punching him in the face real hard. That's something I could see happening, but super intriguing fight. Glad that they could get a suitable replacement for Giga Chikadze, because Giga was number 9, Bryce is number 10, or Giga was number 8, Bryce is number 10, and Emmett's number 6. So they didn't have to go down, full down the rankings. It would have been kind of disappointing if we ended up with an Alex Caceres or something like that. Just didn't feel the same. But it's still a top 10 ranked fight to headline the prelims. Great matchup. Definitely looking forward to it. And I do think that a pretty even fight. I think Bryce is opened as a favourite from what I've seen, and I do see it. I definitely can see him taking down Josh Emmett because he helped taken down, dominated Edson Barboza towards the end of the half of the Dan Ige fight. He took over in the grappling there, but Dan Ige is a guy who's historically became a lot easier to get to take down later on in the fight. So I don't know. I'll watch a bit more tape. Early prediction right now, Josh Emmett by KO, but I could see it going either way. The next fight is Muhammad Mokaev versus Alex Perez is official for Saudi Arabia on March 2nd. That's the big fight night card that is apparently being a very big economic success for the UFC. Apparently they're getting paid like $20 million. Oh, it's not, yeah, $20 million. $20 million from Saudi Arabia to come there. So that's pretty crazy, honestly. Be really interesting to see how Muhammad Mokaev looks against the top 10 guy. Obviously, he's coming off a fight with Tim Elliott, but I do think they're doing this strategically. Alex Perez is just about the worst ranked, top 10 ranked opponent that you can get him. I think Perez is ranked number 7, I believe. Let me fact check that real quick. But yeah, I do expect Muhammad Mokaev to win this. Although he hasn't looked overly impressive, Perez is number 7, yeah. So good stuff for Mokaev, a good jump up for him. But Perez, the last time he fought was at UFC 277 when he got dominated quickly by Alessandro Pantoja. Since then, he's pulled out of like 20 different fights. He pulled out of the Manel Cat fight on fight day. He's pulled out of multiple other fights. So hopefully this fight ends up actually taking place. I think the odds on fight to take place are going to be like plus 1,000 or something. Alex Perez heavily favoured to pull out. But Mokaev, I imagine, will be a big favourite. Probably something like a minus 500 in this fight because they're just putting massive price tags on this guy anytime he steps in there. And I get it. He's an impressive fighter. He's looked good, I guess. But even in the Tim Elliott fight, on 2 of the scorecards, he was down 2-0. So if he hadn't got that submission, he would have lost. But I guess we'll never know, as Kanye West would say. So yeah, he doesn't really dominate a lot of his fights. He ends up almost losing a lot of them and then getting these comeback submissions. Like, I think if I'm looking up his record, I'm pretty sure his last 4 fights have all been comeback submissions, if I am not mistaken. Muhammad Mokaev, let me see this guy's record. I think he's had 5 fights in the UFC maybe. Okay, so he fought Elliott, 3rd round sub. He fought Philo, 3rd round sub. Fought Gordon, 3rd round sub. He fought Johnson, he went to a decision, and he fought Durden, and he got a 1st round sub. So 3 of his 5 fights have been 3rd round subs, and especially in that Gordon fight, in the Elliott fight, and in the Philo fight, he lost rounds. I don't think Gordon, not so much. I think Gordon was, I think he was still up, but against Philo he was losing for a lot of that fight, and then against Elliott he was down 2-0. So I don't see Perez presenting the same problems. I do believe that Tim Elliott's actually a better fighter than Alex Perez right now, or at least a more style-wise, a more difficult matchup for Mokaev. So I think Mokaev's going to run through him pretty quickly. I think he could get this one done even earlier than the 3rd round. I could see a 1st round sub, just kind of rush him similar to how Pantoja did, just kind of take over quickly. But great fight, good fight on a Saudi Arabia fight night. So I'm thinking about maybe doing a card builder for that. Let me know in the comments. Do you guys want to see a card builder for Saudi Arabia? I've got a few other video ideas, but I'll get that one done if you guys want to see it. But the final major fight announcement we have here is Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige for February 10th in the Apex is official. Great fight, number 14 versus 13, I do believe this is, or 15 versus 13, I'm not sure. But I think it's 14 versus 13. Regardless, great fight. Dan Ige coming off a loss to Bryce Mitchell. Before that, he won against Nate Landwehr. Before that, he beat KO Damon Jackson. So Dan Ige's been up and down this year. Lerone Murphy's done really well. He beat Josh Kulabau, and I think he beat Gabriel Santos as well before that. But the Gabriel Santos fight was pretty close. I actually thought that could have gone to Santos. And that hasn't aged sensationally because Santos got KO'd by David Onama. So I'm really not sure. I could pick Ige in this one. I think Lerone Murphy's going to have a big size advantage, big reach advantage. But Ige's pretty solid, and he really doesn't lose to bad fighters. He's lost to he lost to Bryce Mitchell with the grappling. That's something he's lost to in the past. He lost a close split to Emmett, which a lot of people thought he won. He lost to Evloev. But apart from that, he doesn't really get like smoked by guys. He doesn't get badly outstruck a lot either. So I could see him winning this fight because he's not past his prime by any means. He's just that kind of mid-range guy. Lerone Murphy, I do expect to be seeing more drastic improvements out of him, but I'll have to watch a bit of tape on this one. Early lead, I'm going to go Ige because Lerone Murphy, man, like he's solid, but Coulibaly's not a top 15 guy, neither's Santos, and both of them have been kind of on and off. Coulibaly obviously beat Melsik Bagdasaryan, which was a good performance, and he looked solid, but he's never cracked the rankings. And Gabriel Santos, as I said, was looking good against David Onama, but ended up getting chinned. So that fight was pretty close, in my opinion, if you go back and rewatch it. It was actually a really fun fight. But yeah, I'm going to lean towards Dan Ige to start off here, but as an early lean, let me just check Big Marcel for any other fight announcements. But those are the major 5 great fights. Super excited for them. I'm really interested to see who steps in to fight Rakic. That'll be interesting. But let me check Big Marcel. So we got Daniel Marcos vs. Aori Trelang, February 10th. I'll go with Marcos. We've got Shukagin vs. Macy Barber, March 9th. That's the pay-per-view. I'll go with Macy Barber. We've got, what else do we have? Molly McCann vs. Diana Belbita. I'll go with Belbita because McCann's terrible at fighting. CJ Vergara vs. Asu Elmabayev. I'll go Elmabayev. Melsik Bagdasaryan vs. William Gomis. I'll go Gomis, just outpointing him. Tim Elliott vs. Sumadaji is taking place this weekend. I'm going Tim Elliott. I'm going to do a full card, like quick picks video for that pretty soon. Anything else of notes? Not that I'm seeing here. So yeah, those are the fight announcements, guys. Great stuff. Or 2 of them are rumours, but let me know who you guys are picking for the fights. Who would you guys take for Rakic versus Jiri? Who do you want to see Rakic fight on short notice? Do you guys think Della vs. Burns will happen? If so, who are you going to pick? And then the 3 other official fights, obviously, who you guys are picking. But see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.